So a lot of times in JavaScript, we want to use custom functions in conjunction with event listeners because what we want to do is have those custom functions available so that when users interact with our web pages, those custom functions allow us to do more powerful things and to make cooler experiences for our users. So how do we do that? So binding a custom function to an event listener, if we have a function, let's say that the say hello function, very simple function, no parameters. That's important in this case. And all it does is write to the console the word hello. Okay, so that's the say hello function. And if we're going to use that with an event listener, we might do something like this where we have an element in our form, let's say a button or something like that. And we add the event listener. We're listening for the click, and then we're calling the function say hello. Now, normally, if we were using an anonymous function with an event listener, we would say function, and then we'd have the empty parentheses, and then we'd have the code block would be right here. But instead, all we're doing is we are adding an event listener that does the say hello. And what you will notice, or what you may notice, is that in this case, when we're using say hello and we're attaching it to an event listener, we are not including the parentheses that belong to say hello. Now, this has nothing to do with whether or not it has parentheses or whether or not it has a parameter associated with it, which it does not. In fact, if we put those parentheses in the add event listener line here, what will happen is JavaScript will execute, it will call that function, it will run that code right there at that line, and instead of waiting for somebody to click that element, it will run that function right then and there. And if it returns anything, it will attach that to the event listener. And that's not generally what we want. What we want is for JavaScript to patiently wait for somebody to click that element and then run that code. And so we leave off the parentheses when we're calling a function inside an event listener in this way. The other thing that this allows us to do, and this is very convenient, but it only works if you're adding and removing the same exact function, okay, is the remove event listener method can be attached, and that will actually take that event listener off that element. And that's really convenient. But again, it only works if you add and remove the exact same thing. So it's really important to pay attention to that and to think that through as you're planning this, because what I'm going to show you next is a sort of confounding element to this. So if we're binding a custom function that has parameters like this, let's say we add a str name or a string that's somebody's name to the say hello function. So when we call say hello, we're giving it a function, and we are giving it a name that then gets put into this template literal and printed to the console. So if we're calling that and we want to call that from an event listener, we have to do something a little bit different because you cannot include parentheses inside the event listener in the way that I just showed you. You have to do things a little bit different. And so what we have to do, or one of the ways we can do this, is by using an anonymous function, as we've done before. And in that anonymous function, we call say hello with the parameter that we want to, or with the argument, I should say, that we want to give to that function. And so that is what that looks like. You can see the anonymous function there, and then embedded in that, we have say hello with the string Bill. Okay, so that is how we would call that. Now, when we're using anonymous functions, we cannot use remove event listener. So that's kind of a bummer. It's a limitation that we trade off for the simplicity of just adding this function very easily with parameters. So remember, you cannot use remove event listener if you use the anonymous function method and call your function from the anonymous function. So what can we do if we want to remove event listener later on, and we still have this custom function with parameters. Well, this is what we would do. We would build something called a wrapper function. So we have our main function. Here it is, strname, or say hello with strname as a parameter. And if we want to call that from an event listener and then be able to remove event listener later, we would create another function, maybe call that one say hello wrapper. And from the say hello wrapper function, we're calling say hello with the parameter that we want. So you'll notice say hello wrapper has no parameters, and the parameter is embedded in that function call of say hello inside say hello wrapper. So we would create a wrapper function, and then that allows us to do the add event listener with the direct call to the say hello wrapper function. And then later, it allows us to use remove event listener with that same name. Remember, when you add event listener, if you want to remove the event listener later, you must use the exact same function name for both in the exact same way. Otherwise, it won't work.